Hi everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at the September release of Nintex Forms for Nintex Workflow Cloud. So there's a couple of changes I want to show you. First is the style builder. So this is the new style builder that's coming into the new responsive engine for Nintex Workflow Cloud and will come to Nintex Forms for Office 365 this month as well. So jumping across to Office 365, we can come and have a look at the old style builder. So this is what we've got today. We can see the applied style and also color choices. Coming across to Nintex Workflow Cloud, our applied styles is really what we see on the canvas. So this is the computed style, is really just what we reference on the canvas itself. Now the two color options are now under applied style, so we see orange and blue. If I come in here and change the control fill, for instance, I'm going to change it to something fairly obvious. Now that becomes my current style, so I can apply that applied style. So this is customized away from blue or orange. I can still come back to orange or blue, or I can come back to my current style as well. So that's a little bit of a different from what we had before. You'll also notice these color swatches here, highlight, interface, field, input text, form and page, were a little bit confusing. We weren't really sure what those actually meant based on the feedback. So now we've made them primary color, secondary color, page, form, control fill and input. So just trying to make it a little bit easier to understand what each of those things do. Color fill being quite obvious, and then input text being the text itself that you're inputting. So if I just change that, and there you go. So just makes it a little bit easier to understand what those changes are going to be. Coming back to here, we've still got our fonts. So that's the main area of the old style builder. So just the fonts. Coming across to the new one, however, we've still got our fonts here. We've also got the ability to change the input text, which is the text in the fields, and also the form text, which is the headings of the fields. Now, other things you'll notice clicking on the color picker, that's pretty much the same as what we had before, but the feedback was that people didn't understand or didn't know that they could put hex codes in this color picker. So clicking on the up arrow, that's where you could do it, but obviously people didn't understand that was there and it wasn't obviously clear. So now when you actually click on the color picker, it's very clearly you've got the hex code right at the bottom to actually change that code. Other changes we're also inheriting from the old responsive designer for Office 365 is the ability to put rounded or square corners on your borders and changing the color as well. So we'll just go and change that so it's quite clear on what I'm changing. Button colors can also be changed. So this is the first phase of our style builder. We do have two more phases coming. I won't talk about these today. We will do those in a subsequent video closer to the release. So the second change I want to talk about is rules. So the rules engine is changing. So the form load rules are being deprecated. So if you had form load rules previously, you will notice this message saying that form load rules have been deprecated, and you can learn more about why that decision has been made. Just to give you a quick overview, if I look at my old form load rule, often what it was used to do was set visibility, set read only, or set the value of a control. Now if I come across to site name, for instance, in the designer, those properties can actually be set in the config. So anything in the config is set at form load. So when we looked at this, we realized, is there any need for a form load rule anymore after we introduced the new default value property? So when we look through here, often people were just setting the default value property or getting a query string and setting that default property. So if you are doing this, you can still maintain them. You won't be able to clone or add a new form load rule, and if you delete them, this option will eventually disappear. So if you do have one, you're free to keep maintaining it, but what you should actually do is grab your function here, close it, and delete your rule, go back to the designer and paste in your function in there. So if I just paste this in here, I've done this before, and it's going to do the exact same thing. So if we look back at rules, there aren't really a reason to use them anymore. It was only ever to set properties of control, so they will be deprecated very, very soon, but you'll still be able to maintain them. A third change we've got coming through is the way that form rules execute. Now previously form rules or form input rules really meant that it only execute when the user input something through keyboard or mouse. Now what's happening is rules will execute even on load when something changes. So let's say if I had a toggle at the top of the form and I set this to toggle and I'm going to say default value is yes. So what's going to happen is on load, the config panel properties is going to set that to yes. Now the problem with the old rules engine was it didn't know that that changed. It was waiting for the user to put input through keyboard or mouse. Now what happens is the rules engine is intelligent enough to actually detect changes even if someone hasn't actually touched the form. So now what will happen is if I said add a form rule, and I say if the, don't need a variable, if the yes no is yes, then make something fairly obvious. Action panel is hello world, and it's not hello world at the moment, so I'm going to create the rule. So I go to the designer, we can see it's just called submit. Now what's going to happen is this is going to turn to yes, and the button is going to change to hello world. Clicking on preview, there we go. This is changed to yes, and hello world's automatically initiated regardless of someone touching the form or not. So that's a different change. So form load rules going away, and also form input rules are really just becoming form rules that can execute at any point in time. So the first thing was the style builder. Second thing is the form load rules being deprecated. Third thing was how form rules actually execute. And the last thing I want to show you is this is a text long field, and what we now have the ability to do is set plain text or actually have rich text as well. So if you're filling out a form and you want to collect some rich text, you can turn that on. Whoops, didn't let that load quick enough. And now it actually has the ability to put rich text at the top. And you'll see here now you can pop that out and have italics, underlines, ordered list, unordered list, links, and line separators. So if I put a bit of text in here, you also have the ability to do line separators and also change the font size as well. So there are all the changes. They're the 4 main changes that you'll notice in the update, the September update for Nintex Forms for Nintex Workflow Cloud. Let me know what you think in the comments. Cheers.